There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that the greatest burden they carry is not the work they do, the people they meet, or the challenges they face. The greatest burden is the constant need to react. A single comment can ruin an entire day. One small rejection can destroy confidence. One mistake can become an endless conversation inside the mind. We become prisoners of opinions, emotions, and circumstances that were never meant to control us. The question is not whether life will test you. It will. The real question is whether you have trained yourself to remain steady when those tests arrive. Many people believe that becoming unbothered means becoming cold, emotionless, or indifferent, but that is a misunderstanding. True strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the mastery of emotion. It is the ability to feel without becoming consumed, to listen without absorbing every opinion, and to face criticism without losing your sense of self. When your peace depends on other people behaving the way you expect, your peace is no longer yours. It belongs to them. Look carefully at the people who seem impossible to shake. They are not protected from difficulty. They simply refuse to give unnecessary attention to what does not deserve it. While others waste energy proving themselves, defending themselves, or worrying about what everyone thinks, they quietly continue walking their path. Their power does not come from controlling the world around them. It comes from controlling the world within them. Today, I want to share with you how to cultivate that inner stability. Not through shortcuts, not through empty positive thinking, but through disciplined awareness and daily practice. Because being unbothered is not a personality trait, it is a skill. And like every meaningful skill, it can be trained. Once you understand this, you will stop asking life to become easier, and you will begin becoming stronger than the situations that once controlled you. The first lesson in becoming truly unbothered is understanding that your greatest source of suffering is rarely the event itself. More often, it is your reaction to the event. Two people can experience the same criticism, the same disappointment, or the same setback, and walk away with completely different outcomes. One carries the weight of that moment for weeks, replaying every word and imagining every possible meaning. The other acknowledges what happened, learns what can be learned, and continues forward without allowing the experience to define the rest of the day. The difference is not found in the situation. It is found in the discipline of the mind. Most people spend their lives trying to control everything outside themselves. They want people to be kinder. They want circumstances to be easier. They want the world to be more predictable. They believe that once everything around them becomes peaceful, then they will finally experience peace within. But reality teaches the opposite. The outside world has never promised certainty. People will misunderstand you. Opportunities will disappear. Plans will fail. Expectations will not always be met. If your emotional state depends entirely on these external conditions, then your peace will always be temporary. Imagine carrying a cup filled to the very edge with water. Every small movement causes it to spill. A single bump is enough to make you lose what you were trying so carefully to protect. This is how many people move through life. Their patience is so fragile that one negative comment overflows into anger. Their confidence is so delicate that one rejection turns into self-doubt. Their happiness is so dependent on circumstances that even minor inconveniences steal their joy. They believe the world keeps shaking them, but often the problem is not the movement around them. The problem is that they have never learned how to carry themselves steadily. Training yourself begins with accepting one simple truth. You cannot stop life from moving. You cannot stop people from speaking. You cannot stop change from happening. But you can decide whether every movement deserves your emotional energy. This decision is available in every moment, although most people never realize they have it. Instead, they react automatically. Someone raises their voice, and they immediately become defensive. Someone ignores their message, and they instantly create stories about rejection. Someone succeeds before them, and jealousy quietly takes over their thoughts. These reactions happen so quickly that they feel unavoidable, yet they are habits that have been repeated for years. Every habit can be replaced through awareness. The moment you begin noticing your reactions instead of becoming them, you create space between the event and your response. That space is where freedom exists. Without that space, you become like a leaf carried by every gust of wind. Every opinion changes your direction. Every inconvenience controls your mood. Every unexpected challenge determines how you feel about yourself. Observe how often unnecessary suffering begins inside your own imagination. A conversation ends awkwardly, and the mind immediately invents reasons why someone must dislike you. A mistake happens at work, and suddenly you imagine your future collapsing because of one imperfect moment. Hours later, you are still fighting battles that never actually existed. The mind is incredibly creative when it is left without discipline. It creates enemies where there are none, dangers that never arrive, and fears that grow stronger simply because they are repeated over and over. This is why mastering your reaction requires observing your thoughts without believing every one of them. Not every thought deserves your trust. Not every emotion deserves your obedience. Emotions are signals, not commands. Anger may appear, but that does not mean it must control your actions. Fear may arise, but that does not mean it should determine your decisions. Anxiety may visit your mind, but you do not have to invite it to stay. The stronger your awareness becomes, the weaker your automatic reactions become. Many people believe strength is measured by how loudly they defend themselves. In reality, strength is often revealed through restraint. It is easy to argue with someone who insults you. It is easy to match negativity with more negativity. It is easy to seek revenge when your pride has been wounded. What is difficult is remaining calm while your emotions demand immediate action. What is difficult is choosing silence when the ego wants the final word. What is difficult is protecting your inner peace instead of protecting your image. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions. If you dedicate your life to correcting every misunderstanding, you will never have time to build your own path. There will always be critics who judge without knowing your story. If you spend your energy convincing every critic, you surrender your focus to people who were never committed to understanding you in the first place. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Wherever your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention constantly chases conflict, your life becomes conflict. If your attention remains rooted in growth, your life gradually reflects that direction. Notice how quickly emotions demand urgency. Anger tells you to respond immediately. Fear tells you to escape immediately. Pride tells you to defend yourself immediately. Yet many of the worst decisions people make happen because they obey emotions before allowing wisdom to speak. A calm mind sees possibilities that an emotional mind cannot recognize. Patience is not weakness. It is the ability to delay reaction until clarity arrives. Think about the strongest tree standing through a storm. It does not waste energy resisting every gust of wind with rigid force. It bends when necessary while remaining deeply rooted. Its strength comes from stability beneath the surface, not from dramatic displays above it. Human beings are no different. Your roots are your values, your discipline, and your awareness. When these become strong, the storms of life still arrive, but they no longer uproot your peace. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen this inner stability. Someone criticizes you. Instead of reacting, observe your breathing. Ask yourself whether the criticism contains something useful or whether it should simply be released. Someone disappoints you. Instead of allowing bitterness to grow, remind yourself that expectations often create unnecessary suffering. Something unexpected interrupts your plans. Instead of resisting reality, ask what the present moment requires from you now. These small choices appear insignificant, but repeated daily, they reshape the way your mind responds to life. Over time, you begin noticing a profound transformation. Situations that once consumed your thoughts for days now pass through your mind within minutes. Words that once wounded your confidence lose their power. Delays that once filled you with frustration become moments of patience. The world has not changed. People have not suddenly become easier. Life has not stopped presenting obstacles. What has changed is the one place where true control has always existed. Your response to whatever stands before you, the person who masters this response discovers a kind of freedom that cannot be purchased, borrowed, or given by anyone else. It is built quietly through thousands of moments where reaction is replaced with awareness, where impulse is replaced with wisdom, where emotion is acknowledged without becoming the ruler of every decision, where the mind slowly learns that peace is never found by controlling the world outside, but by remaining the master of the world within one of the greatest prisons a person can live in, has no walls, no locks, and no guards. It exists entirely within the mind. It is the prison of constantly needing approval from other people. Many individuals spend their entire lives measuring their worth through the opinions of strangers, friends, family members, co-workers, or people they may never even meet. A compliment makes them feel valuable. A criticism makes them question everything about themselves. Praise gives them confidence. Rejection takes it away. Their identity rises and falls depending on how others respond to them. This is not freedom. It is dependence disguised as confidence. If your value changes every time someone expresses an opinion about you, then your value has never truly belonged to you. You have handed it over to everyone else. You wake up hoping people will appreciate your efforts. You speak carefully so that nobody misunderstands you. You avoid taking risks because failure might invite judgment. You hesitate to express your true thoughts because someone may disagree. Gradually, your life stops being guided by your own principles and starts being directed by the invisible expectations of others. The truth is that opinions are among the most unstable things in this world. The same person who admires you today may criticize you tomorrow. Someone who doubts your abilities today may praise you once you succeed. Public opinion changes with circumstances, emotions, trends, and personal experiences. If you build your identity upon something so unstable, you will never experience lasting peace. You will spend every day adjusting yourself to satisfy people whose expectations continue changing. Consider how often people misunderstand one another. A quiet person is called arrogant. A confident person is called proud. A disciplined person is called cold. A kind person is sometimes called weak. The labels people place on you often reveal more about their own perspective than about your true character. Every individual sees the world through the lens of their experiences, beliefs, fears, and assumptions. No matter how sincere you are, someone will interpret your actions differently from how you intended them. If you make it your mission to control every opinion, you have accepted an impossible task. Many people carry emotional wounds because they confuse rejection with personal failure. They believe that being rejected by someone means they are not enough. But rejection often says far more about compatibility than about worth. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Not every relationship is supposed to last. Not every person will recognize your value. This does not reduce your value any more than a key loses its usefulness because it cannot open every lock. When you begin separating your self-worth from external validation, something remarkable happens. You stop performing for approval. You stop exhausting yourself trying to impress everyone around you. You become more honest because you are no longer afraid of disagreement. You become more courageous because failure no longer threatens your identity. Your actions become guided by purpose instead of popularity. This does not mean ignoring all feedback. Wisdom requires listening carefully, especially when criticism contains truth. Constructive criticism can become one of life's greatest teachers, but there is a difference between learning from feedback and becoming emotionally dependent upon it. A mature mind asks, is there something valuable here that can help me grow? An insecure mind asks, does this opinion determine who I am? These are entirely different questions. Temporary emotions create another trap. Human emotions naturally rise and fall throughout the day. You may wake up feeling motivated, only to encounter frustration before noon. Confidence may be high one moment and low the next. Happiness may suddenly be interrupted by disappointment. Many people mistakenly believe that these emotional changes define reality. They assume that because they feel inadequate today, they actually are inadequate. They assume that because they feel anxious, danger must be present. They assume that because they feel discouraged, success has become impossible. Feelings are real, but they are not always reliable guides. Clouds passing across the sky do not change the existence of the sun behind them. In the same way, passing emotions do not define your deepest nature. They visit your mind for a period of time, and then they leave. Problems arise only when you mistake temporary visitors for permanent truths. Observe how emotions influence decision-making. A person who feels lonely may chase unhealthy relationships simply to avoid being alone. A person who feels angry may destroy years of trust with a few careless words. A person who feels insecure may compare themselves endlessly to others, believing they are always falling behind. None of these emotions remain forever, yet decisions made during emotional storms often create consequences that last much longer than the feelings themselves. Mental discipline begins with learning to witness emotions instead of immediately acting upon them. You notice sadness without allowing it to convince you that life has no meaning. You notice anger without allowing it to become aggression. You notice fear without surrendering your future to imagined disasters. The emotion is acknowledged, respected, and observed, but it is not given complete authority over your actions. Social media has intensified this struggle for many people. Never before have human beings compared themselves to so many carefully edited versions of other lives. People measure their happiness against someone else's highlights. They measure their appearance against filtered images. They measure their achievements against success stories that reveal only victories while hiding years of failure. This endless comparison quietly erodes self-worth because it creates the illusion that everyone else is living without struggle. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose appreciation for your own path. Every individual begins from a different place. Every person carries different responsibilities, talents, limitations, opportunities, and challenges. Judging your progress against someone else's journey is like comparing the growth of different trees planted in different environments. One may bloom earlier while another develops deeper roots. Neither process is superior because each follows its own timing. Your worth cannot be measured by applause because applause is temporary. It cannot be measured by wealth because wealth can disappear. It cannot be measured by physical appearance because appearance inevitably changes. It cannot be measured by status because status depends upon circumstances outside your control. Everything external eventually shifts. If your identity depends upon changing things, then your identity will always remain unstable. Instead, build your self-worth upon qualities that cannot easily be taken from you. Build it upon integrity, discipline, honesty, compassion, patience, and courage. These qualities remain available regardless of whether people notice them. A person of strong character remains valuable even when nobody applauds. A disciplined individual continues improving even when recognition never arrives. Someone who acts according to principle does not require constant reassurance because they already know the foundation upon which they stand. Freedom begins the moment you realize that not everyone must understand you. Some people will support your decisions. Others will question them. Some will celebrate your growth. Others will feel threatened by it. Some will remain loyal during difficult seasons. Others will disappear when circumstances change. Allow people the freedom to think what they wish without allowing their opinions to determine your direction. As this understanding deepens, emotional storms lose much of their power. Praise becomes pleasant but no longer addictive. Criticism becomes informative instead of destructive. Success becomes something to appreciate rather than something required to feel worthy. Failure becomes an opportunity to learn instead of evidence that you are not enough. Temporary emotions continue appearing because they are part of being human, but they no longer become permanent rulers of your life, and your sense of value gradually becomes rooted in something far stronger than the changing voices of the world around you. Many people search for peace as though it is something they will eventually discover somewhere outside themselves. They imagine that one day life will become less stressful, people will become easier to deal with, responsibilities will become lighter, and then they will finally feel calm. Yet if you observe carefully, you will notice that external conditions are always changing. One challenge disappears and another soon arrives. One problem is solved and life presents a new lesson. If peace depends entirely upon circumstances, then peace will always remain temporary. Lasting peace is not created by the absence of difficulty. It is created by the presence of discipline. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people associate it only with waking up early, exercising regularly, or following strict routines. While these habits certainly develop self-control, true discipline reaches much deeper. It is the ability to consistently choose what strengthens you instead of what merely satisfies you in the moment. It is the willingness to guide your own mind instead of allowing your impulses to guide you. Every day, life presents countless opportunities to strengthen or weaken this ability. Imagine your mind as a garden. Every thought you repeat is a seed. Every emotion you continue feeding grows stronger. Every habit you practice becomes another plant taking root in the soil. If you neglect the garden, weeds naturally spread. Negative thinking grows effortlessly. Fear expands without invitation. Anger multiplies through repetition. Self-doubt quietly establishes itself until it begins shaping every decision you make. But if you intentionally care for the garden each day, removing harmful patterns while nurturing healthier ones, the entire landscape gradually changes. Your mind follows the same principle. Whatever you consistently cultivate becomes your natural state. This is why mental discipline cannot be practiced only during difficult moments. If you wait until life becomes overwhelming before training your mind, you are preparing for battle after the conflict has already begun. A soldier does not develop strength in the middle of war. Strength is built long before it is needed. In the same way, inner peace is cultivated through daily practice, long before life demands it from you. Consider the importance of your morning. Before speaking to anyone else, before opening your phone, before allowing the world's noise to enter your awareness, there is an opportunity to establish the direction of your mind. Many people begin each day by immediately consuming information, reading messages, checking news, scrolling through endless updates, or comparing themselves to others. Without realizing it, they surrender their attention before they have even chosen where it belongs. Their mood becomes shaped by whatever appears first on a screen instead of by conscious intention. Mental discipline asks something different. It asks you to begin by observing yourself. Notice your breathing. Notice your thoughts without rushing to judge them. Notice how quickly the mind wants distraction. In these quiet moments, you begin reclaiming authority over your attention. Attention is one of the greatest forms of power because whatever receives your attention eventually shapes your reality. Every habit either strengthens or weakens your ability to remain unbothered. When you constantly react to every notification, your mind becomes accustomed to interruption. When you seek immediate comfort whenever discomfort appears, patience becomes weaker. When you avoid difficult conversations because they create temporary anxiety, courage slowly disappears. Small choices repeated every day become your character. Character is not built through one extraordinary action. It is built through ordinary actions performed consistently over time. There will be days when motivation disappears. This is precisely where discipline becomes more valuable than motivation. Motivation depends upon emotion. Discipline depends upon commitment. If you exercise only when you feel inspired, your progress will be inconsistent. If you remain calm only when life feels easy, your peace will always be fragile. A disciplined person continues practicing, regardless of emotional weather. They understand that emotions naturally change, but principles remain steady. One powerful practice is learning to pause before responding. Modern life encourages immediate reaction. Someone sends an upsetting message, and the expectation is to reply instantly. Someone criticizes you, and the ego demands an immediate defense. Something goes wrong, and frustration insists upon immediate expression. Yet between stimulus and response exists a small space. That space may last only a few seconds, but it contains extraordinary power. Every time you pause, breathe, and observe before acting, you strengthen your mastery over yourself. Another essential discipline is learning what deserves your energy. Many people become exhausted, not because life asks too much of them, but because they invest emotional energy into countless things that hold little lasting importance. They replay conversations that cannot be changed. They worry about opinions they cannot control. They imagine future problems that may never exist. Energy is limited. If it is constantly spent on unnecessary concerns, little remains for meaningful growth. This requires learning the art of letting go. Letting go does not mean pretending that nothing matters. It means recognizing that not everything deserves continued attention. Some disappointments are lessons rather than lifelong burdens. Some conflicts resolve themselves when you stop feeding them. Some relationships naturally fade because they have completed their purpose. Holding on to everything creates emotional weight that eventually slows your progress. Gratitude is another form of mental discipline. Most people practice gratitude only when life feels comfortable. Real discipline means choosing gratitude, even while facing uncertainty. This does not deny pain or ignore hardship. Instead, it prevents hardship from becoming the only thing your mind notices. Every day contains both challenges and blessings. Whatever you repeatedly focus upon gradually becomes your experience of reality. Patience also deserves careful attention. Society celebrates speed. Faster success, faster communication, faster achievement, faster results. Yet nature follows a different rhythm. Trees require years to become strong. Mountains are formed over unimaginable periods of time. Rivers carved through stone through steady persistence rather than sudden force. Human transformation follows similar principles. Lasting change rarely arrives overnight. It develops quietly through consistent effort, repeated long after excitement fades. Mental discipline also requires accepting responsibility for your internal state. It is tempting to blame difficult people for your anger, stressful situations for your anxiety, or unfair circumstances for your unhappiness. While these influences certainly affect us, they do not possess complete authority over our minds. The moment you accept responsibility for your response, you reclaim your power. Responsibility is not a burden. It is freedom because it reminds you that your peace is no longer entirely dependent upon forces outside your control. As this practice continues day after day, your reactions naturally become slower, your awareness becomes sharper, and your emotional stability grows stronger. Situations that once overwhelmed you begin feeling manageable. Delays lose their ability to create frustration. Criticism loses much of its sting. Uncertainty no longer feels like an enemy. The habits you once had to consciously practice gradually become automatic. Calm replaces panic, clarity replaces confusion, patience replaces impulsiveness. Strength quietly replaces the constant need to prove yourself. Eventually, peace no longer feels like something you occasionally experience during perfect moments. It becomes the foundation from which you live. Not because life has stopped presenting difficulties, but because your daily discipline has transformed the way you meet those difficulties. Your mind becomes less interested in chasing comfort and more committed to cultivating wisdom. Your attention becomes less scattered by distractions and more anchored in what truly matters. The storms of life continue arriving as they always have, yet they discover a person whose inner foundation has been strengthened through countless days of quiet practice, until calmness is no longer something you force yourself to create, but the natural expression of the person you have trained yourself to become.